Ladies and gentlemen, episode number 26 of the Trifecta Sports Podcast. Today we're talking about a review of week number 1 in the NFL season and the fantasy football season. And we're going to dive into week number 2, talking about some start and sit. So if you guys have questions, holler at us. But other than that, we're going to get going with episode number 26, fellas. All right, guys. First week of fantasy football is almost in the books. Apparently, Geno Smith is killing it right now in the Monday night game against the Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson. We mentioned off air right before we went live that Russell Wilson and the Denver Broncos were a lot of people's Super Bowl picks, David's included. So we're going to just kind of review how our fantasy football week went in our league, the Bush League. I'm not very happy, obviously, and you're going to find out for good reasons. I'm an idiot. That's just the bottom line. If I make one change, my chances are probably 80% better to win this week. But, I'm an idiot. So you guys want to talk about Bryce already on the show. He said, let Geno cook. Bryce, I'm going to have to apologize to you and the Seattle Seahawks, because I've been talking mad crap about Geno Smith and how bad he sucks. I stand corrected. I'm sorry. I can admit I'm wrong like a human being
it's only
and a
quarters.
man.
It
don't matter.
There's a lot of game left.
2 quarters.
It don't matter. He already exceeded my expectations. They were like below. They were like the crawl space of a single wide trailer low. That's how low my expectations were for Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks. But more power to him. Shout out to Geno Smith, I guess. I don't know. But we're going to get into our individual fantasy matchups that we had this week. I'm going to go last because I don't want to start the show pissed off about everything. But we'll let Dave and Coop talk about who they liked on their teams, how their guys did, and then we're going to talk about everybody, the whole NFL roster. And if you guys are watching, have questions, we're going to dive in later on in the show about start sits and looking ahead to week 2. So stay tuned for that. Dave, you want to go first? Let's talk about how your matchup went this week.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Chaz. Thanks for rolling over and giving me that week 1 win. Really needed it. Can you throw my team up? Do you have that?
I don't have that. I can get it ready. I can get it ready. Just talk. I'll get it.
All right. So my team, I still love my team, but we definitely did not hit expectations. Started out the week, we have an adjusted scoring system. I believe I was projected 340 points, and just before we got on air, Coop said 350 plus a week, you're probably guaranteed to win. So felt pretty good rolling into this week, and the expectations just were not met. And I don't think it's that I'm going to, I'm mad at my team or I'm going to start dropping guys or trade them. It's just, I think we just had some bad week 1 matchups. Tom Brady, 212 yards and a touchdown. It was just a bad game. Naji Harris, 23 yards and a receiving touchdown. Not great. But again, bad matchup against a good Bengals defense. Deebo Samuels, 2 receptions for 14 yards and a rushing touchdown. Not great, but
I don't want to talk about
I'll
the Bengals, fellas.
We got, and then
I got your team here,
Mark
Dave.
All right, there we go, because I don't want to rattle this off. So, we can look at, Tom, Naji, Deebo, Mark Andrews, Mike Williams was horrendous, especially considering that Keenan Allen went down. I don't know what the hell happened there.
If you're watching, keep in mind also, we're basically like double PPR, for lack of a better term. So our points may look a little different than what your points will look like. That's why you see like Carson Wentz with 55.94 points. It's basically everything in our league is double just to make it a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So, the 2 guys that I am in love with right now that I wasn't super high on in the start of the year was Kareem Hunt and Christian Kirk. Kareem Hunt is a bona fide handcuff. I think Chubb had 22 carries for like 140 yards, and Kareem Hunt walked away with a rushing touchdown and a receiving touchdown, I believe. And then you had Christian Kirk with 7 receptions for over 100 yards. No touchdowns, but the fact that he's getting that usage, I love it. The fact that he's a receiver going over 100 yards, first game against a decent defense, love it. So, my team was overwhelming, but we got the job done. Appreciate you, Chaz. See ya, whatever we play next.
Yeah, we got a question really quick, and we're not going to answer it quite yet, Gabriel, but you are right about this week's fantasy being a big fluke. I'm going to talk about the biggest fluke of them all whenever I talk about my team. But we are going to come back to that question on whether or not to pick Curtis Samuel or Jahan Dotson. So, Coop, go ahead and rattle off your likes and dislikes, if you have any, about your team this week specifically.
Yeah. So first off, I saw a stat that I think it was right at 50% of fantasy teams won this week. So, it was only a fluke for the 50% that lost. And that trend will probably continue week after
crap, dude.
Get math into this now?
That's
the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Just saying. I mean, that's why we love it, right? It's unpredictable. We thought we'd have guys. We thought we knew what we were doing. You spend weeks, you spend hours into all this research. You come out week one, and not everything hits. There were 3 guys I feel like I really kind of planted a flag on this show for you all. One was Justin Jefferson. I said he's the 101, pretty much regardless of format. I took him in the first round over, quarterbacks in a super flex league, and it worked out. He's the highest scoring player in fantasy this week. 9 catches, 184 yards, 2 touchdowns, and that offense was gauged around Justin Jefferson. They were running everything for him.
I just popped Coop's team up on the screen so he can reference that, by the way.
And then the second guy that I was able to get is A.J. Dillon, running back 9 on the week. I think it's going to continue. I mean, I don't think Aaron Jones is bad. I think he had a lower week, but both these guys will be top 20 this season. And the value of getting A.J. Dillon in the 8th round is a steal, especially in the 0 RB format that I went with. Dameon Pierce was a little bit of a disappointment. He's second fiddle to Rex Burkhead, and I don't understand it. Burkhead's got to be 40, right? I mean, he's been around forever.
He's getting close.
And
he's got to be old.
If he stays healthy, it's going to be a problem. I'm not out on Pierce. He might move to my bench for a while and kind of wait for that opportunity to present itself. But a little disappointed in him. Other than that, I wasn't too disappointed. Kyle Pitts was on the field. He was running routes. I think that's going to come. He's going to get his opportunity. Atlanta was up for a lot of that game.
Yeah.
And, Cordero Patterson really took over the game script. Higgins got knocked out in the first quarter with a concussion. So I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot. Michael Carter, out of nowhere, leading the Jets backfield. They said he was going to in preseason, but nobody thought he would.
Yeah,
everybody was in on Breece Hall like 4 rounds earlier than Carter. And he had a good week too. So I'm feeling pretty good. I like where my bench is at. Daryl Henderson's looking like he's going to lead the Rams backfield as well. Justin Fields, I think, showed as much as he could in that monsoon in Chicago.
Yeah, quick shout out to Josh Weaver. Again, loyal listener. Appreciate you, brother. We love the support there. Coop, I want you. We talk about Daryl Henderson there. What is? I know these Cam Akers owners are like livid right now. Do we have any advice for people that own? I don't want to say own. That sounds weird. That have drafted Cam Akers on their fantasy team, expecting them to be a running back 1, and then nothing. Is that something that's going to be? Is that going to happen? Like you would think.
Yeah. I mean, McVay said before the season he sees 2 starting running backs. I don't know if you guys saw this. Adam Schefter last year kind of sat on Elijah Mitchell. He says he does it every year. He sees a guy in training camp. He knows they're going to hit, and he doesn't tell until like the day the NFL season starts.
Who was it this year? I forgot who it was.
Kyron Williams for the Los Angeles Rams, who McVay held out of the preseason games, like a 4th-round rookie running back. He gets hurt on special teams before the offense even ever gets a chance to go out there. So maybe that was the second running back he was talking about, because we just didn't see Akers.
Yeah.
I don't think he has enough value to sell him right now. If you have Cam Akers, you're kind of stuck with Cam Akers, and you got to hope that something picks up for him. I don't think LA, I don't know. They didn't look good. They didn't look good at all.
I agree with that.
So I don't know how much value there is, but I think Henderson is higher in the weekly rankings going forward than Akers.
I mean, he almost has to be. Like, the dude got every touch there was. One thing I want to bring up to the viewers, and this is like high quality, smart football thinking. Okay, Coop went into all the games yesterday were over with. He was up by 1 point. 1 point, ladies and gentlemen. The other team's players, they were done, and nobody else had to play. He had his kicker left. I want you to. I'm going to pull up his roster again. Let's see if you notice something weird about Coop's roster.
Scared.
Take a look at the very bottom spot.
Scared.
He benched his kicker.
He didn't just
at the end of the week.
He dropped him.
And picked up. I dropped my kicker and picked up a flyer for tonight's game. Picked up KJ Hamler.
Yeah,
just in case, right?
So
if you have the opportunity to do that, why not?
That is. I mean, I've never even thought about that before. But like, who was your kicker? Suck up.
McManus for Denver.
Okay, so like, if McManus comes out, doinks 3 field goals, Coop loses points, he loses the game, loses that week's matchup. So he's like, you know what? I'm not taking a chance. I'm just going to not play a kicker and drop him completely. That's smart. I don't know if your other leagues allow y'all to do that, but I would have never thought to do that in a million years. Never. But kudos to you, Coop.
You just lost points. You know, good for you, Coop. You could have won by more.
Hey, win's a win, all he says.
Win-loss is all that matters. Win-loss.
All right, fellas. So you guys heard these guys talk about their great weeks they had, that they're going to win. I'm not going to win this week. And here's why. Check out my tight end spot, fellas. Cole Kmet, who we've been high on this show. Your boy's an idiot. Straight up idiot. I started a tight end in a game in which you could catch catfish on the field. That's how muddy it was. They ain't throwing the damn ball. And if they are, it's not to a tight end. He's going to be blocking for the run game. Yeah, I'm still kicking myself over this. He had 1 target the whole day, 0 fantasy points, and here I am just chilling. All right. I don't know what to say. Like, Jameis Winston had a hell of a day for me. Jonathan Taylor, number 1 overall pick, had a hell of a day. CeeDee Lamb worries me right now, honestly. Especially with Dak being out. There's a couple different ways it can go, and I'm going to be, on the brighter side of things. Backup quarterback, you're going to be looking for your most loyal and liable target. But can they get him the ball? Like, Dak couldn't get him the ball. What do I do? Like, I got CeeDee Lamb. He's probably my 2nd overall pick.
Frank, you want me to tell you what you should have done?
Y'all want to trade?
No, you just shouldn't have picked him.
No, thanks, Dave.
I'll buy CD for the right price.
Yeah,
every player is, they have their price.
Josh, we were talking about Freiermuth. I don't think he's available in our league. Is he? I doubt he is. We got a lot of people on our team.
You go on.
Won't be now.
Yeah. I did have Julio on the bench, DJ Chark on the bench. Julio Jones surprised me a little bit, fellas, this week. He got a lot of attention. Even with Godwin on the field and Gage on the field, he got...
Godwin got hurt, and he's feeling that Gronk roll.
That's tough, Frank. That's tough.
Daniel Poe's going to... For those of you that don't know, Daniel is the one that's beating me currently and is going to beat me. I'm just going to take my medicine and move on from my life. But Josh talked about Freiermuth. Freiermuth impressed me a lot against the Bengals. He got a lot of attention from Mr. Trubisky, who played well, by the way. And we're not going to talk about the Bengals because I'm.
Oh, we're going to talk about the Bengals, Frank. We're going to talk about it.
I've never had so much of my mental health depend on long snappers over the course of a football weekend. The UK game, we had long snap troubles.
Oh my gosh!
But we won. We beat Florida. Shout out, go Mark Stoops, winning it.
5 turnovers from your quarterback,
winningest coach of all time. But the thing is, with the Bengals, what happened was Clark Harris, who is our long snapper, and the fact that I know his name is on another level. He had a bicep injury in the game, and it come down. We throw a great drive. We got Jamar Chase in the corner for a touchdown to tie the game up. Extra point with the best kicker or 1A and 1B kicker in the game. And we can't kick an extra point because the snap was too slow because we have a third string tight end snapping the damn ball. And then we have another chance to win it in overtime. High snap, kick gets pulled out of the bounds to the left, laces in, all that good stuff. But it's been an emotional roller coaster for me this week in terms of football. Yeah, Josh, I agree with that, dude. We had this discussion today with our CD owner. He's behind Deontay Johnson. A lot of guys I take over CD now. I'm not going to lie.
100%.
I agree with that.
Oh, yeah. That's no doubter.
I do have options on my bench, though, that I can play. I'm going to have to make some decisions next week, that's for sure. My stepmother, Leanne, huge Bengals fan, talk about long snappers raising blood pressure. Long snappers, you shouldn't even know their names. And the fact that they get shown on the TV is a bad thing.
I'm just going back to this. If you can blame a long snapper for losing that game,
no, I'm not blaming
other problems.
I'm not blaming the long snapper for losing the game. I'm blaming the long snapper for not winning it. There's a difference. And it made Lindsay's favorite player look bad. Lindsay is a McPherson fan.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Burrow again.
No. Burrow looked awful, by the way. I'll admit it. He looked like not even a top 20 quarterback yesterday. He looked.
I disagree with
Excuse
that.
me, Dave.
I disagree with that.
He looked awful. He made some horrible decisions. Now, I'll give you this. Offensive line did not look good. It's remade. There's so many everybody's new on it pretty much. But even if that, you have to make better decisions when you throw the ball. Like, he doesn't throw it away when he needs to. Well, he didn't yesterday. I have faith in Joe Burrow. I'm not knocking him, but yesterday was definitely frustrating, and we had some issues with, the Bengals didn't play their starters in the preseason, hardly at all, if at all, and it showed.
Frank, you're talking like you're the Bengals of old. You're talking like your starters need preseason reps. You think you need all this practice to be better in the season. We're out here choosing Jamar Chase to be all of our bust for the year. And this guy just made us eat our words. I mean, me especially. I know I called it out.
Long season, Dave.
No, that guy, you can't tell me that Steelers defense did exactly what they wanted to against the Bengals. And when it was 20 to 14, whatever, a minute left, it was Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and nobody else on that field. And that guy imposed his will. He went Justin Jefferson on their ass and just he took that game into overtime. I don't know. I was super impressed by that guy. He made me eat my words. I thought he was going to have a sophomore slump. Bad matchup going into week 1 against a good Steelers defense. And he still routed off. I mean, he had like 10 catches for 120 and a touchdown. That's a pretty damn good week for a sophomore game 1.
Yeah, he definitely carried us.
I still don't think he's wide receiver 3. That's
I
where he
don't
was
think
drafted. That's where he was ranked. So I still think
Well, damn sure ain't CeeDee Lamb.
Was overhyped. No, it's definitely not. But Higgins being out, I mean, really ups his value an insane amount. Also makes Boyd more valuable. We don't know how long he's out yet. I haven't heard anything.
I like Tyler Boyd, fellas. I'm telling you,
Yeah,
he could be a solid fantasy pickup if Higgins is out. Just
He
to
should
throw
have
that
been
out there, I feel like
Yeah.
he should be drafted in most every league. I'll be honest with you, I thought about it multiple times. There were just other guys ahead of him on my list of things to go after, and I went wide receiver heavy. There's still great guys on my bench that are more consistent and more valuable in fantasy than Tyler Boyd, but he's somebody to definitely think about because I think Burrow targeted him like 5 times in the first quarter alone. And that's a number I'm just pulling out of my head, but I watched the game. The first pass he threw was to Tyler Boyd. And that's just because he's a sure-handed receiver. But I think if you can get Tyler Boyd off your waiver wire, if you're looking for somebody to throw in as a flex play, Tyler Boyd's a great one to go after, in my opinion.
Yeah, and one more call out from this game, just real quick. Burrow had a career high in rushing yards. If he does that more this year, that's a game changer for fantasy. 47 yards on the ground, that's huge. I mean, I don't think he's going to get that every week, but I think his career average is like 12. So, I mean, if he doubles that, if he's getting you 2 to 3 points a week on the ground, that makes a big difference at that quarterback position.
Yeah, it makes me nervous when he takes off running. It also makes me nervous when he takes a snap in a shotgun and drops back for a pass. But, that's it. So, any last parting words from like our individual fantasy teams? I'm excited to look ahead to next week and just to kind of look at the matchups a little bit closer and hopefully, the weather is not a factor in any of my players. But like, I think a lot of people have a lot of decisions to make going into next week, especially me and a couple other fantasy owners. If you're a Dak Prescott owner, obviously, what do you do with him? Do you hold on to him? He's out 6 to 8 weeks probably. Also, if you're the Dallas Cowboys, what do you do for a quarterback? You can't just roll with homie that came in, right?
Cooper Rush?
I saw something today, and it made a lot of sense to me. If you're Jerry Jones and the Dallas Cowboys front office, you have to immediately go out and look for a quality quarterback, and they're out there as backups. You can't go if you stick with Cooper Rush for the next 8 weeks, you're telling your fan base that that you can't win.
I don't think there are quality backups out there.
Nope.
Not to do what the Cowboys think they're capable of doing. I'm not saying they are because they look terrible with Dak. And, I almost wonder if it's not worth the draft capital if they're just going to kind of eat the season. They got 2 what can be bell cow backs. The receiving room is absolutely thrashed with injuries, so maybe they just lean on that run game and defense and hope they can stay 500 till he's back.
Or they tank and try to get Will Anderson.
No,
and load up that defense even more.
No, that's the stat I saw last night. Dak Prescott's the 3rd longest tenured quarterback in the league
for his team.
One team. So that means I think he is on the out here. An injury tells me Jerry's going to start looking and say, just tank. Let's go after Chase Young. Let's go after Will Levis. Let's go after one of these young rookies. The league is changing. Dak is Dak, but he just broke his thumb. We saw what Russell Wilson did last year. He was amazing start of the season, had thumb issues, came back too early, and then now he's on the Denver Broncos. So if it was anything else, if it was his pinky, his ring finger, I would have probably a different tone, but it's his thumb. And a thumb's pretty important to throw. So I could see the Cowboys tanking, A, to get a new quarterback, B, to fire Mike McCarthy and get Sean Payton. Because Coop's conspiracy theory is right, and Jerry is playing a game.
I like it, fellas. We're going to get into some comments here. So the first one back at the beginning of the show, we had Gabriel Maldonado asks whether we're going to go with, or would you go with Curtis Samuel or Jahan Dotson moving into week 2?
I think I would go Curtis Samuel while Brian Robinson is out. And I know that might not make a ton of sense, but I think that he has more of a running back skill set, and they can kind of use him in that gadgety role for some of those bubble screen type plays and even jet sweeps and things like that.
Sort of like the
Dotson,
Debo row.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to get
Just not as
carries out
good
of the
as Debo.
backfield, but he's that type of player. I think Dotson's the clear number 2, and after week 5, when Brian Robinson comes back and they have a between the tackles runner, that definitely will change. But right now, week to week, I'm starting Samuel over Dotson.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think, in the immediate future, Samuel's definitely the hot hand. I believe he had the most targets from Wentz in week 1 against a so-so Jacksonville defense in primetime weather, which, is good for Samuel. But I think long-term, especially if you're in a dynasty league, you're going to want Dotson. I think it's a no-doubter. So, but ride the hot hand. I think Samuel, I love that he got the targets. And actually, one of my biggest worries of this week is Terry McLaurin. I mean, the guy was, you could almost say, effectively a bust. He had one long catch for a touchdown that pretty much saved his fantasy value. But, it looked like Wentz was going after Samuel all day long.
He might have been taking the easy pick there too. Like he might have been like, looking at the coverage and be like, hey, they're going to be all over McLaurin. Let's get these other guys involved and see what happens. And it worked out. Josh Weaver's got a comment or a question. He said, before week 1, he traded Kamara, Saquon, Hollywood, Julio, and he got in return DJ Moore, Mixon, and I'm assuming that's Aaron Jones before week 1. What are our thoughts on the trade? Saquon had a really good week, fellas.
Yeah, before week 1, I don't hate it. I don't know. I probably think you won with the Moore, Mixon, and Aaron Jones the week before. As of today, I think Saquon is RB2 rest of season. It's Jonathan Taylor. It's Saquon. It's hard for me to put anybody else up there with him after that performance. Like, he's back. He looked explosive in a game that they were not good in. I mean, broke away. They throw, 2-point conversion. They give him the ball. How much confidence is that from that coaching staff? So hindsight, I probably would have went with the Saquon side. Pre-week 1, you won the trade.
I do think Mixon is going to get his fair share of touches. Aaron Jones is going to be Aaron Jones, obviously. Saquon is just without injury, and I don't like to see anybody get injured, but if Saquon is healthy, he's back to old Saquon. Like, he was running through tackles of grown men. Every third play was going to him, if not more. It was kind of fun to watch. The Giants are probably not a very good football team. Their wide receivers are nothing to brag about. Daniel Jones is Daniel Jones. You can take that for what you want, but Saquon's a dog. He also
Alvin
said,
Kamara, do you guys?
Yeah, go ahead, Coop.
Alvin Kamara was a big disappointment for me. I was shocked at how many other people got carries. Like, Ingram got more work than I thought he would. Taysom Hill had 4 carries and a long touchdown. Like, kind of minimum usage in the passage game. I was really surprised that Kamara was underused.
Well, do you think it's the Jameis Winston versus Drew Brees effect where Jameis Winston can throw it 10 yards down the field?
It could be. That alarms me.
Josh said he's dealing with a rib injury.
But he's out there. So if he's out there, you think they're going to use him.
Yeah. Let's go Tyler Bellamy, Devin Duvernay for the Ravens. We're at the waiver pickup for a week, or is it a week 1 fluke? 2 touchdowns, only 4 catches. That's a good question. Thoughts?
So I'll go first because I went and picked him up in almost 4 out of 6 leagues. But I'm not picking him up. If I get him, I'm not gonna start him because I think that Ravens offense is exactly like Philadelphia's, minus A.J. Brown. You don't know, is it going to be Lamar? Is it going to be J.K. Dobbins? Is it going to be Mike Davis? Is it going to be whoever? You don't know who is it going to be in Baltimore. Mark Andrews is clearly the bet, but Rashard Bateman looked decent. I think he had one touchdown. But I mean, if Lamar and Duvernay have this connection, I think it's at least worth the week 1 pickup, because he might be like a Christian Kirk in Arizona. He might take 2 games off, but he might go have 2 touchdowns every 3 weeks.
Yeah, for sure. Anything else in here? Kadarius Toney. I think
he's done something. He's done something to make that coaching staff mad.
Here's the thing about
snaps.
Here's what I know, or what I've gathered from watching the Giants game. Brian Daboll is a dude. He's going to try to win with whatever he has and whatever it takes to win. That's the Bills mentality coming out in him, and I like it. I like the dude. He went out and won a football game. He had balls. He went for 2 for the win. He's not going for a tie. He's not putting it in anybody else's hands but his best player in Saquon Barkley, and it worked out for him. If Toney doesn't get, especially with Wan'Dale Robinson going out early with a knee injury, and Toney doesn't get something, that spells disaster for me, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't understand it at all. He's like one of the most explosive players in the NFL. Had a 19-yard carry. Why are they handing him the ball? Like, why is he not running routes? I don't get the utilization. He's finally healthy. It's what we were waiting on. He had so many flashes last year in the limited action we saw him. Like, I had him definitely as a boom candidate. Like, he was on all my draft boards, somebody I was trying to target. And I'm with you, Josh. I don't understand why he was not out there for every route.
All righty, fellas. Moving on to a different little segment of the show. We're going to start, studs and duds. So let's move on to week 2. Who do you like to have big weeks? I know I'm putting you guys on the spot there. It might take a minute to figure out who you're going to pick. But looking into week 2, we can look at projections, things like that nature. I mean, what do you guys think? Let's go. Maybe you want to go running back first. What running back has the best? I don't know. Jonathan Taylor's looking pretty good for week 2.
We're all checking our stuff.
Yeah.
How about?
So we're going running back?
Yeah, let's just take a look at running backs. Looking for something week 2. Let's make a pick for a stud running back for week 2. A lot of dead air, fellas.
Well, you should.
Daryl Henderson Jr. Let's go with him at Atlanta. I think that's a bounce back game the Rams need. Hopefully, it's a positive game script, and it looks like he's the lead guy. He could get a lot of run in that one. It's actually home against Atlanta, so even better. They're not on the road. So I'll probably go. I think Daryl Henderson is a guy that I'm probably going to move into my starting lineup for next week.
We're going for studs, right?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going Dalvin Cook at Philadelphia. DeAndre Swift just cooked him for 150 yards rushing. Got snaked 2 touchdowns by Jameson Williams. Cook is the bell cow there. No questions asked. I look to see the Eagles try and take away Justin Jefferson a little bit more than what the Packers did. So I love Dalvin Cook against Philly. They just got cooked. Run defenses don't change.
Yeah, I'm looking at a bunch of them, fellas. Joe Mixon jumps off the page at me. He had a really good week. They're playing Dallas, who has a pretty stout defense. I'm leaning on the Kareem Hunt train right now. Kareem Hunt had a big week 1. They're playing week 2 at the Jets. Jets are the Jets. That's just as simple as I can put it. Kareem Hunt is going to be a guy that gets a lot of attention here, especially after a big week. I think how many carries? He had 11 carries, 46 yards, and a touchdown. Also 4 receptions, 24 yards and a touchdown. I just think week to week, Kareem Hunt might be a guy that kind of takes over that offense there.
I think another tandem backfield call out is the Packers because they're playing the Bears. And we know what Aaron Rodgers and the Packers have done to the Bears for years. Coming off that loss, I think it will be a kind of a revenge game in Rodgers' mind after huge disappointment, and both those backs will have big games against a questionable Chicago defense.
Yeah. And while we're on this topic, Josh mentioned, Jonathan Taylor at Jacksonville. I think that's just a given. Jonathan Taylor against anybody is probably going to be a stud. In terms of, Tyler Bellamy's picking Eckler against the Chiefs. That's a good point. Games are always shootouts. I could see that. That's a good possibility. I mean, Eckler is a guy that you're gonna start regardless. Looking at somebody that may not have the best week available. Moving on to the dud area of the fantasy league, I'm going to throw it out. I don't know the extent of Naji Harris's injury, but as of right now, his designation is questionable for next week. I doubt he plays. And against, he didn't do much anyway. He had a receiving touchdown that, in my opinion, was a little bit of a good play call for him. It wasn't nothing that he did. His coaching staff put him in a good position to make that play. I don't think Najee's going to have as good of a week. And for me to say to sit Najee is going to be probably blasphemous to some of you guys, but I'm not playing him next week if I got him. I don't have him personally, but I would take it. I would look ahead, last minute call, have somebody ready on your bench to make that switch at the last minute. I don't see him playing much at all. Or if he does, it's going to be minimal.
I'll go with Derrick Henry.
Oh, come on.
That was my second pick. I was going to pick Derrick Henry.
Less than 4 yards per carry. The Titans, I said this in offseason. The Titans were like the worst 1 seed we've seen. I thought the division was down. I think that whole team was just kind of overhyped. You look at their actual football grades from the way they played last year, and they were like one of the worst rated 12-win teams the NFL's ever seen. So they struggled in their loss to the New York Giants last week. I think that's worth noting. And they're playing a Buffalo defense that just absolutely dominated. He also could not catch the ball. I don't know if you guys watched the game of Derrick Henry playing, and it looked like he had boxing gloves on. He can't catch, and they're going to have to throw playing from behind against Buffalo.
Dave, who you got, buddy?
Well, I was going Henry, but can't do that now. I'm going to go Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think he got bailed out. He had a bad week 1. He had 2 short touchdowns. Kind of saved his fantasy value. The Los Angeles Chargers coming into town. It looks like Pacheco is going to be the lead running back now. I think he had the most carries. I just, if I'm going for a guy to just bench, it's him. He got his lucky 2 touchdown week. And that usually just means I'm going to get burned next week with 10 yards and no touchdowns. So that's my guy I'm sitting. Even if it's a shootout, the Kansas City offense.
He ain't getting the ball in the shootout.
Exactly. You don't know who's going to get the ball. So I'm not betting on Clyde Edwards-Helaire to get the ball.
Another honorable mention for me is probably going to be Ezekiel Elliott. He looked good at times, but also he's playing against a pretty stout Bengals defense.
Homer.
I am a homer. You can get over it. I don't care. They're stout. I mean, you take Naji Harris and a fluke.
Yeah, he had terrible efficiency. You're right.
That's what I'm saying.
But he's never had good efficiency.
Also true.
But we always rank him so high. I don't understand it.
Because he gets so many touches.
He got like 27 touches a game last year. He only had to get 3 yards on him for him to matter.
Exactly.
Yeah, another dud, Josh Weaver says, is going to be either Jacksonville running back. I'm pretty upset about the Jacksonville running back situation, too. You know,
That's a win. That's a win for athletes to see James Robinson come out there and perform that well, because Cam Akers had the Achilles guys buried.
But I drafted Travis Etienne.
Well, that's your fault.
Anyway,
Etienne dropped a touchdown. I think it'll get better.
Oh,
he had some flashes.
That was a wide open touchdown.
But I mean, how many opportunities are you going to get before they stop giving you opportunities?
He's a first-round draft pick playing with his college quarterback. He's going to get plenty of opportunities.
He's got a couple years at least.
I don't know, man. They're desperate to win now. If they're not getting somebody that can win, I hope so. I'm going to probably keep him in my lineup for next week, but I'm probably highly going to consider finding an excuse to not play him if I can.
I got another dud. I think will underperform. Alvin Kamara at Tampa.
That'd be tough. Tampa's defense looked really good yesterday.
Yeah, it just seems if he is questionable, what's that rib injury going to do? Are they going to limit his snaps? And they're playing a really good defense.
And the names we're throwing out are probably guys that people are like, oh, I'm never taking them out of my starting lineup. You know, for good reason. I mean, you got big names, guys that consistently give you production.
Well, I mean, and you also got to look. We're in a 10-team league with expanded lineups. We have a little more play. Where some of those guys, if you're a 12-man league with 4 bench guys, you're playing the guy you drafted in the 5th round, regardless of expectations for the week.
Right.
Like that's who you have to play.
Because there's nobody else left.
Exactly. So
waiver wires are bare, and you might get lucky week to week, but you're not going to get anything consistent. Yeah, Lindsay has a good point. They're playing the Cowboys. They did not look good. Cowboys were flustered, and their Cowboys. We them boys. Our dude Millie Mills says, "Look, guys, I'm taking my homeboy in the first from now on. Him or Allen, and build around him." Dude, those two are ballers, man. Ballers. I don't think anybody would bat an eye over that, honestly. Especially if you're in at the end of the first round in a snake draft. Throw them in there.
First round receivers definitely hit. They were the top 5. Great return on value. They were all insane. But I think we're just seeing a shift, right, in the NFL. And even though total points may not come out with 5 receivers on top, that weekly consistency and health at the position, I think, has moved those guys in front of running backs, especially since most of the leagues are set up in PPR formats now. But you're
talking about receivers taking precedent over running backs from here on out?
Yeah, I can't take a quarterback in the first. I just can't in a regular league.
But let's just talk about it. Why? I mean, I know why running backs, bell cows, have always been the staples of the first round. But every time you look at them, I mean, you have 1, 2, maybe 3 that are like up there at the top 10 of fantasy points scored every year. And it's always quarterbacks. Your top 10 is always quarterbacks. Why not take a quarterback first round? Why not go get a guy who's going to lead the league in scoring? Because at the end of the day,
it's about scoring points. If you get a quarterback in our league that drops you 50, and obviously our point system's different. Your quarterback drops you 50 every week. That's less work your other guys have to do. And T-Bell says, and talk about Coop's point, most teams run the ball by committee now. There's no. You got Jonathan Taylor, probably Christian McCaffrey, Naji Harris didn't. It was committee this past week. The Dallas Cowboys are by committee. I can't think of another. Eckler gets a lot of attention, but other than that. Are there any guys out there that are like the focus of their offense? I can't think of another one.
The top of the first round. That's about it.
Yeah. So, yeah, there's 4 guys. You can make the argument that there are maybe 10 receivers out there that are could be taking over not taking over those first 3 or 4, but over everybody else.
The thing with quarterbacks, Carson Wentz was quarterback 3 this week. Carson Wentz didn't get drafted. Right? Jameis Winston, quarterback 6. Ryan Tannehill, quarterback 9. Like, these are guys that did not get drafted in standard formats. And you can get that production of a guy off your waiver wire in the last round of your draft, or in the 7th round. You can take Jalen Hurts, who was 4th. Like, I just can't take one that early because the positional scarcity isn't there.
Well, no, I'm not saying the first round should be all quarterbacks.
Not just any quarterback. I'm talking about the 2.
Yeah, I'm saying Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes.
Nobody else gets taken.
They're going to go out there and get you 350 fantasy points a year. Why not take those? Why are they not first rounders for somebody late in the draft?
Yeah, like the last.
Because I can get 7 less points than Josh Allen for Carson Wentz off a waiver wire right now. But that is not that big of a positional advantage. Just stream it, play the matchups.
He's not on the waiver wire. He's on my team.
No, we have a 2 quarterback league.
Speaking of waiver wire, Millie he said he's in an 18-man league and putting up 160 plus. Sutton's still playing. Man.
You got some nice value, sir.
18-man league. How does that work? That's got to be crazy. I can't even imagine. That makes me nervous just thinking about it.
That's you got to really know, because you get into. I mean, you got the Josh Palmers, the KJ Osbornes. Like, those guys they're targets for you. They're not flyers. You know what I mean? You're like Daryl Henderson's in my flex from week 1. I love it.
Yeah. Josh says that top tier quarterback to next tier quarterback point difference isn't as great, which is exactly what Coop said. Top tier wide receiver to next tier wide receiver, and then the same with top tier running back to next tier running back. I agree on the running backs. I think wide receivers.
Yeah, I mean, I think that statement's right.
Yeah, I agree with that. But still, we're talking about the 2. Like, if I've got the 9th pick and I'm getting the 12th pick, you're going to get this. One of them can be it's basically a first round draft pick. One of them can be a quarterback. One of them can be one of those 2 quarterbacks. Let's put it that way.
You guys take them. I'll let them go.
This fly is killing me in my room. Anyway, TPL says 18-man league. Who's your RB1? Todd Gurley. Oh, man. That's funny. 18-man league is a deep league. Yep. You got to do your homework on that one. You're going to get.
That's waiver wire. Waiver wire stash is there.
Oh, for sure. I wonder how big the rosters are.
I would say it's a standard roster: 2 wide receiver, 2 running back, 1 flex.
Yeah. It'd almost have to be. You'd run out of players.
Yeah. But this first week, got lucky, went wide receiver heavy in the draft, didn't take a running back till round 8. And I had 3 top 24 backs this week. So, like, you can find that value just if you get lucky enough to pull it off. You know what I mean? Like, I had Damian Pierce didn't hit, but Michael Carter, A.J. Dillon, and Daryl Henderson all exceeded their expectations by quite a bit and made that finish when they were all really the second back drafted from their own team. So if you can figure out those committees where the value's at, that's kind of where you have to get into those layers on deeper leagues.
Yep. All right, guys. If you're watching, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, by the way. We're getting into this portion of the show where we answer your questions. You got start-sit questions. You got questions about outlooks, questions about week 2, anything like that. Shoot them our way, and we're going to do our best to answer them. I'm going to try to get something going here.
While we're waiting on those, I got a question for you guys from our league. One of our league mates has Dak. There's only like 6 quarterbacks available on waivers. What's your advice there? And shout out, this is a Keith, actually, first-time fantasy football player. Won his week 1 matchup by 1 point, but he did have Dak go down on him.
So he's
Go down
got
for him.
who's his other quarterback?
Trevor Lawrence, I believe.
Yucky. So let's look at who's available.
He's got value out there. Trubisky's a good pickup. I think
that's
Flacco's a
solid.
good. Flacco threw for 300 yards, no touchdowns, but
Mariota maybe. Geno Smith is out there.
heck, Davis Mills. I don't hate Davis Mills. I think him and Cooks have a good connection. He apparently loves OJ Howard. So I would say waiver wire. I mean, hell, worst comes to worst, go pick up Cooper Rush. You're gonna play Dak. You're gonna Cooper Rush probably isn't gonna get you that many less points than Dak would.
Yeah, and he still won. So
you don't think you would try to flip Dak or make a trade for somebody else's QB 2 or 3? Like maybe somebody would trade a backup quarterback for Dak. Like I have Daniel Jones. I would probably do that and put Dak on my IR spot until he came back. But is Daniel Jones better than your waiver options?
not unless he throws at the Saquon. I think you're going to get more out of Mitch Trubisky.
I would agree with Frank. I think the waiver wire
And the way Geno Smith's playing currently, I mean, in our league, he's got 34 fantasy points, which is, not great, but way beyond my expectations. And, I mean, he's playing a good defense in Denver, too, so that's a plus. Oh, boy, about messed something up there. Your boy about exited out of the stream just now. Anyway, who we got here? All right, we got Millie Mills with Mahomes, Henry, Stevenson, Sutton, Higgins, Knox, Patterson, McManus, and Steelers. That's a good roster for an 18-man league.
Yeah, you can tell how it just falls off. I'm assuming he went Henry.
Maybe
Sutton.
Mahomes.
Oh, yeah, maybe Mahomes second, and then Sutton in the third.
Higgins. T. Higgins was before Sutton.
Oh, yeah. I like that Cordell Patterson in the flex, though.
Yeah, that's nice. My wife has Cordell Patterson. That's a good pickup for her. That's a pretty solid team for an 18-man league, honestly.
That Steelers D was huge.
It was.
Yeah, it was.
That probably won him the week. Keith Hall, your Raiders sucked. That's okay. My Bengals sucked. It's okay. It's just week one.
But Davante Adams did not suck.
No,
wow.
He's not going to suck. Coop, Josh says make him feel better about DJ Moore.
All right, so I've got DJ Moore as well. I'm not a Baker fan, and the narrative coming in was the same one that we heard for Michael Pittman and for Terry McLaurin and for Allen Robinson, playing with the best quarterbacks of their career. I don't know that Baker's that much better than Sam Darnold. Like, I think it's pretty close. But the guy's had 1,200 yards 3 years in a row with subpar quarterback play. I think it'll come. McCaffrey did not have a good game. I think they're still just trying to figure everything out. They got Baker in there late, so I think the offense is still kind of just meshing. It's gelling together. Robbie Anderson is that guy. I mean, he's Mike Williams, right? 4 targets for 1 catch 1 week, and the next week he gets 5 catches, 100 yards, and a touchdown. Like, he's not going to be consistent. He'll have his boom weeks, and I'm just really not concerned about him. He had 6 targets. That's not terrible. 3 catches. Like, it's going to be there, and he's going to become that safety blanket for Baker.
And here's another thing. We're jumping to a lot of conclusions here in week one. A lot of conclusions. A lot of the times, teams are still feeling themselves away or around the field, especially new guys in new schemes. You might run into some situations to where, offensive coordinators are just trying to try things out. This early in the season, a win or loss in week one is not going to matter in the long run. Now, you start dropping 3-4 losses in a row, that's when you need to be concerned. We get to week 3 and 4 and your guys are still not seeing production, then here we are at, that's when you need to start making decisions on, proposing trades and things like that. Justo says, what should a guy do with T. Higgins asking for a friend? I don't think you do anything with T. Higgins. I think you leave him. He got hit pretty hard in the head, had to go out for the game. I've not seen an update on it yet. I would assume he'd be back for this week. But T. Higgins is a dog. Obviously, number 2 option for Joe Burrow. Sometimes probably number 1 option for Joe Burrow because, Jamar Chase he's going to have his targets, but, they're going to cover him pretty well. T. Higgins has just as much upside as most other tier 2 wide receivers, in my opinion. He's going to be targeted for touchdowns. He's going to be targeted deep down the field, and he's a big receiver. Jump balls in the end zone. Those are T. Higgins balls. So, Justo, leave him be, in my opinion. I don't think you do anything with him. Just keep an eye on his injury designation and look at injury reports and see, is he going to be on a snap count? Is he going to be out at, it's a concussion, I think. But I think you just ride him out. Millie Mills says he's trying to get rid of Naji in one of his other leagues. I agree with that. He's got that foot injury. We talked about it last week. The Liz Frank foot injury. It's something that's pretty serious. And I don't know if you guys saw him get rolled up on. It didn't look pretty. The side of his foot was on the ground, and it was twisted a completely opposite way. And it was late in the game, too. You hate to see that. But I wouldn't. Nobody would. If you're in a keeper league, don't do that. But,
Who are some guys you're targeting after week 1 if you've got Naji? Like, who would you flip him for after you saw week 1 performances roll out?
You talking like waiver wire pickups or just straight up
trade target
trades? It's a good question. Let's take a look at the rosters.
I would say Saquon. I could see someone take the approach of
you're not getting Saquon from anybody.
No, but I mean, you just look at Saquon's history, though. Yeah, he has these breakout games, but then he gets hurt. So someone could, theoretically, someone could be thinking it's a game of chance. You're not going to get it's not going to be 1 for 1, especially after week 1. You're going to have to give something up. But I could see going after Saquon with Naji Harris, approaching somebody with the youth.
Somebody like James Conner is not a bad idea either. The Cardinals didn't look great.
Oh, that is hysterical, Frank.
But he's going to be a touchdown guy. He's not going to get a ton of yards. He's going to score touchdowns. So and in the grand scheme of things,
you're going to trade Naji Harris.
Not trading
the guy that he replaced.
I'm not trading Naji Harris. Was that the question?
Was that not the question?
I didn't understand the question. I'm saying you drop Naji down to your bench and go after somebody else to replace him. That's what I thought the question was.
We're talking about who would you trade Naji for?
Oh. Well,
he asked. Fournette.
That's what Millie Mills just commented and said.
Yep.
Great minds think alike.
I would try to get Fournette. His usage was insane.
Weaver said the same thing.
Did not impress me. He's going to be the bell cow for him. I guess he's healthy. We thought he was coming in overweight. I thought Tampa would have a lot more problems than they showed in that game.
Tyler Bellamy's got a start sit question. Said, which one of these at the flex for week 2? Allen Robinson, Juju, or Julio?
If Godwin doesn't play, Julio.
I said at the beginning of the show, Julio, I didn't expect him to get that much attention from Tom Brady, but he got a lot of it and a lot of like deep down the field attention. He dropped a couple passes there. I'm not quite sure. I know he had 3 or 4 targets that were deep down the field, but they were looking at him for sure.
Yeah, I'd say you can't miss with Julio or Juju. I mean, it looks like the Chiefs' offense is going to be, as creative as it's always been. You don't really know who's going to be getting the ball other than Kelsey. So I think Juju's always a safe pick there with the Kansas City explosive offense. Like going against the Chargers, which it'll probably be a shootout. Should look up that game line because that should be big points there.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, like you guys said with Julio, Godwin's out. Gage didn't really impress much. It looks like Tom was throwing to Julio. I think he had 6 or 7 targets. So I don't think you can miss. I would definitely sit Allen Robinson until you see what the hell is going on with the Rams offense.
Yeah, and you might you might sit him and then he might blow up for 2 touchdowns, but let's just be patient here. That could happen with anybody. We could sit Juju and he would do the same thing. That's something you got to kind of figure out on your own. The first 3 or 4 weeks of the fantasy season, you're kind of filling out your team, looking at targets, seeing and actually watching the games live. If I didn't watch the Bengals and Steelers game, I would have never had Pat Freiermuth in the back of my head as somebody possibly to pick up for a tight end. Trubisky relied on Freiermuth a lot on third downs, especially, and he was targeting him in the end zone. Millie says, I'm a big Falcons fan. Seeing Julio with Tom Brady makes me sick, but he understands why he's there. When Tom Brady comes calling, it's kind of hard to tell him no. I do like seeing a little bit of. Go ahead.
The fastest game speed of any player on the Buccaneers in that game.
Yeah, he looked so good.
Like 21 mile an hour.
He looked so good. He looked healthy. He looked like he belonged out there. It's good to see a guy like that with a career resurgence that he's had so far. And it's week 1. Let's just hope he stays healthy. And I'm telling you this, man, their defense on the Buccaneers they're astounding. If their offense can get it going and get it figured out, and we can get, I don't say we because I'm not a Tom Brady or Buccaneers fan, but if they can get their offense going and consistently and put up some points, you're looking at another Super Bowl contender. I'm calling it. So, somebody's watching the big game tonight. He said Josh says Jerry Judy's ball now. Let's look at the stats. Let's bring it up. Anybody got
4 catches, 102 yards, and a touchdown.
Boys, I'm playing against Cortland Sutton, and if he gets one more point, I lose. So I really need Javonte Williams to just run this in the end zone real quick for me.
Javonte Williams is being out-carried by Melvin Gordon.
He is?
Gordon's got 10 carries, and Williams has 7, but it looks like Javonte's been much more involved in the passing game. 7 targets.
Oh, yeah, he just got one.
Fellas, fantasy football is an exciting time for everybody. We're closing in. Well, actually, we've already passed up an hour. It doesn't feel like we've been on here an hour, but we can sit here and talk all night. Any last parting words for anybody?
Go get Michael Pittman. I was high on him all preseason. I think I had him at 6 or 7 in my preseason rankings, like right after the big 5 at wide receiver. And he came out and did it. I was so mad during our draft. I think I said it on here when we were going through the results of our draft that I missed it. He's going to be amazing. He's going to be a top 6 wide receiver this year. So buy him while you can.
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially with Matt Ryan looked pretty solid for a little while. It sucks that I'm going to ramble on about why you shouldn't tie in the NFL. These are grown ass men. Let somebody win the freaking game. I know they talked about changing the rules. I know they have. Is it going to be just in the playoffs?
For now, yeah.
The rule change?
Mm-hmm.
It's so stupid. Why?
The AFC South had a divisional game, and they do not have a team when they win.
Yeah.
Like all 4 teams in that division failed to win a game, even though they were playing each other.
That's the craziest stat I've ever heard in my life. Oh, man. Whole division did not have a win and 2 teams played each other. That's pretty
How
funny.
does that reflect in the standings? Are you a quarter game up? Is it?
You're 0.25.
Yeah. No, it should be.
T-Bell had a good point here. Rookie running backs did not have a good week 1. We hyped him up on this show all the time, and everybody, if you listen to any fantasy football podcast or watched anything on TV with, Field Yates and all those guys on ESPN, they're hyping up rookie running backs, but there's still time. I'm not shutting the door on them yet. Not starting any of them, probably not until we see something consistent. But I wouldn't close the door on them yet.
Still keep an eye on Tyler Algier. He didn't play week 1. Damian Williams got hurt, and that was 2 big reasons why Patterson had so much work in Atlanta.
Talk about Cordero.
Yep.
Yeah. One guy I would still trust, even though he didn't look great, would be Trey Lance. I know he had crappy weather playing against the Bears. It's a bad loss, but I wouldn't write him off just yet. You know, rookie, basically a rookie, first game starting. I think the guy has the weapons. You know, he didn't have George Kittle. I'd say don't give up on him yet. If you're thinking about sitting him, you know, depending on the other options, I would roll with him. I think he's going to be a dude. They went and got him. They're benching Garoppolo for him. Like, I feel like they've seen something. They're just not doing this because they got to back themselves up.
So, question is Khalil Herbert, ? Did score a touchdown. Is that due to the weather? I don't know. But he was on quite a few. I know he's on some waiver wires for sure.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're looking for somebody, I wouldn't say no to Khalil Herbert. I wouldn't say no to going and picking him up. I still don't know that I would get rid of my rookie wide receivers or rookie running backs that you already have. But there's a lot of people that aren't high on Montgomery right now.
I think I would. I think Herbert's a deep flex play. They have talked about Chicago, how they like both guys. They are a run-first offense. You know, you can see how many guys just got lucky touchdowns yesterday that saved their fantasy values.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think Khalil Herbert's going to have a lucky touchdown. I think he's going to get the goal line work. I think if you're in a deep league and you need a flex guy.
Like an 18-team league?
Yeah, that's exactly.
If he's available in your 18-team league, pick him up. All right, fellas.
Yeah. Herbert.
We've been going quite a while. Enjoy, as always, the interaction between us and our viewers. Our YouTube channel has grown, I wouldn't say tremendously, but in relevance to what we had about 2.5 weeks ago, we've gained almost 20 subscribers to our channel. It's all because of the people commenting on here, interacting with us. Our video is getting out to more people on their streams. People are clicking on it. They're enjoying the content. Hopefully you guys are enjoying it as well. Give us any feedback you like. You think we can make it better. We're looking to improve as much as possible. And like always, we hope you subscribe if you haven't already. Share us with your friends. Have them subscribe as well. Like the videos. Share the videos. We're looking to extend not only doing some fantasy football content on our live stream, but throughout the week doing other content in terms of college football, things of that nature, other things that we can tie in, maybe on a more solo basis. So you might see one or more of us, throwing out some videos here and there that's just by ourselves, talking about some things, hitting up the big news stories and things like that. Millie, we appreciate the love, man. I feel like you and Josh and T-Bell, I don't want to leave anybody out, but you guys have kind of carried us for the last couple of weeks. We appreciate it. Again, we love you guys. Appreciate you tuning in tonight. As always, we are the Trifecta Sports Podcast. Send us all the love you can to your friends. You guys have a great night.